We get inside the minds of amazing individuals. Of amazing comedians, amazing people, entrepreneurs, multi-hyphens. It doesn't matter what. On this show, it's all about the discovery, and I hope that you got a good feel for what I discovered today, and that's just dope energy. Ladies and gentlemen, you already know what this is. This is Gold Mines. What up, world? Welcome to another episode of Gold Minds, where we do what? That's right. Say it with me. Get inside the minds of amazing people, amazing personnel. And today will be no different. An amazing person that we have, an amazing opportunity to gain amazing information we have. Let me tell you who we're going to talk to. Oh my God, a #1 New York Times best-selling author. It's called All Good People here. Also creator and co-host of the top charting podcast, Crime Junkie. I got so much to talk about there. Founder and CEO of Audio Chuck. Oh my God, AKA the queen of true crime. Guys, we got Ashley Flowers on the show. What's going on, Ashley? There's people clapping right now. Cars are shaking. Oh yeah. So much is happening right now. Everybody's going ape shit. Right now.
Losing it. I hope so.
Losing it because of that introduction, because I'm talking to you. Thank you for joining me here on Gold Minds, first and foremost.
Thank you.
So much to talk about. Before we can talk, I just want to say congrats. It's very dope when you can see people doing dope shit and see dope shit being received, right? Being reciprocated from your fans, from people all over that's literally stepping up and responding to your material. How does that make you feel? Looking back at your world of success?
I mean, wild, because I didn't ever expect this or even start out thinking it was going to be this. It also is a little surreal because I'm in Indiana, and podcasting is a very private medium. So even though there might be, tens of millions of people who listen every month, I don't see them. Like, my life hasn't really changed. So, but I think that's like a good thing.
Well, I mean, listen, when you say that, there is a crazy level of there's a level of success that you reach through the world of audio, but to your point, you do maintain your privacy, like your life, right? It's not jeopardized at all. Like you don't really get the crazy engagement of person to person fanfare. But I think that it changes, of course, over the course of time, when the audio personalities start to mix and mirror the video component into the things that they do. And I mean, for you, as this progression is of course, continuing to happen, it's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time before that starts to happen. So are you prepared for that side of success? Or are you like, no, I don't want that?
I don't know that I'm fully prepared for it. I think that because right now it's still really exciting. Like nobody really knows what I look like, except for a few diehard fans who follow me on social. So when I go out, I get recognized like one time every time I go out in the grocery store or wherever, and it's just great to connect with a fan, and everyone's super cool. I've always heard, mostly because I deal in true crime with law enforcement, that they're like, the second people can see your face, that's when you start getting the stuff that actually becomes concerning. And so I'm a little nervous.
Wow. Why crime? Let's start there. Like when you talk about your love for your job and what you do, what is it about crime that intrigues you the most?
I have just always been obsessed, and I think that my obsession is with solving a mystery, because I am obsessed with true crime, but I am obsessed with fictional crime as well. So mystery novels, crime thriller movies. It's just been the thing that I have been most passionate about, and never realized I could build a career around until the last 6 years. It was just a hobby. It was something that I did a lot of volunteer work before I ever had a podcast. I was always trying to give back to the community that I was taking entertainment from, but it was just a passion, and I don't have a connection. People ask all the time, did something happen to you or someone you know?
Yeah.
I think some people are built for it. I think I would have made a fucking badass cold case detective, but I would have made a terrible cop. And so it wasn't in the cards for me.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Was there ever a want to partake in the field? And maybe that's where the interest comes from. I did a series called True Story.
Mhm.
And my reason for doing the series, it was like, yo, I want to put a gun in my hand. I want to be responsible for a murder. I want to do something crazy. And it was like this weird, sick thought that I had attached to this creative concept for development. And
Mhm.
I went out and I got the creator and showrunner of Narcos. And I was like, if a guy like this can gravitate towards the idea of doing something crazy for me and I can mix and mirror these worlds, how crazy would that be? But it was like a twisted little thought in my head.
It's
Do
a
you
dark
ever
place.
sit down? Yes. Do you ever sit down and like think to yourself, like, okay, I operate from a pretty fucking sick place, and I'm happy in operating there. I'm happy in going.
But that's what I'm saying. I think some people are built for it, because people ask me all the time, like, how can you do this day in and day out? And how can people who actually work in the field do it day in and day out without it actually killing them or making them? I mean, so many people are divorced, alcoholics. Like, there's those jobs take a toll on you. And I think some people are built for it. Even if you're built for it, though, it doesn't mean it doesn't take a toll. And I think there's a fine line between the people who are like really good at what they do in those fields and like, or you could have gone the other way and been the killer you're trying to catch.
Well,
do I think I could commit the perfect crime? Probably. Like, yeah.
Yes, that, I swear to you, that was going to be my next question. Like, do you feel like you have now gotten to a place where it's like, I know how to operate in this space, and if I ever were to, I could get away. I could get away.
Well, I feel like I have so many people watching me now, and like the more I say it, the like less it's going to be true. But the thing that I think about all the time, like I'm going to commit a crime, is like I'm constantly aware of like my phone tracking me or the surveillance video that I'm on, and that is like what I spend a lot of brain power thinking about. It's like how would I just like get away from that? I don't know what I would do once I was away from it, but if I could like go dark for a little bit, how would I go dark?
How would you get away from it? Who are some of the I want to say, I mean, this is a very weird question to ask, but out of all the crimes that you have been able to kind of like track and follow and kind of just like get to the bottom of, like who has intrigued you the most, like as a criminal? Which particular crime? Like, is there a crime that is a little more like forward for you? Like, I can't believe, like, this one crime had me captivated. I was so captured by what not only they did, but how they got away and for how long. Like, is there one that had you wrapped up or that still sits at the front of your brain?
I mean, I feel like there's a lot that sit at the front of my brain, but those are a lot of the unsolved ones, because I like those are the ones with the most questions. As far as maybe a criminal who's been at the front of my brain for the longest, Israel Keys pops up a lot. Do you know who that is?
Okay, no.
Yeah.
Who's
he doesn't get talked about the way Ted Bundy and Gacy do. He was operating out of Alaska and kind of Washington, but this guy would travel the country. He would go to a place, bury what he would call a cache or a kill bucket full of money, of tools, of guns, whatever. And he would come back months, years later, unbury his bucket, use it to kill someone, a complete stranger, and then move the bucket and bury it somewhere else. And this guy operated in all 50 states, maybe other countries. And he got caught because he got sloppy. But like,
when you say bury a bucket, what does that mean?
Like a Home Depot bucket. Yeah. So this guy was traveling around the country, burying his buckets and just picking people at random. And so to this day, no one knows how many victims he actually had. And the thing that he did is his victims went missing. Like their bodies were never really found, with the exception of one victim. So like this dude was, and to me, that's the scariest, because he had been operating for years with no one knowing, and just all these missing people who, if you look at them individually, were never even connected.
You're just looking at a person that just had
terrifying.
Like a crazy fucking hobby. Like, I mean, I think for me, the thing that's scariest about getting deep into the woods or something like that is just really discovering how sick people can be. Like, like that's the part that I don't have the stomach for. I don't have the stomach for the like, yes, I can't continue down the road.
I think the darkest part is the longer I've been in this and the more we've done, because some of the cases we've covered, we've done like year-long investigations. And when you do those, you really get insight into people's lives behind closed doors. And it's how many people have dark things happening, even if they weren't the person that committed the crime. You start picking apart people's lives and you just see a lot of stuff when you do that, and how many people could actually be capable of something awful.
Ugh.
The world's a dark place. Yeah.
That's chills. Chilling that is.
Chills.
Like even you saying it slow like that, it's just a dark place. Like that's very scary for me. Here's what I'll ask you. Like now, because of your success, do you have any connection like with the legal side of the world? Like do they lean on you at times? Have you found yourself being an aide or acting as an aide to detectives, to cops to some degree?
More on the publicity side. So they utilize us the way they utilize traditional news and other media. So we get them reaching out to us a lot to publicize cases where they need attention. They're looking for tips. And then we get families who lean on us to do some of the investigative stuff when a case has gone cold or when they're not getting help from the law enforcement agencies that are responsible for their case.
This is insane. It's actually like extremely insane. And you as a person, like when you're saying like, I would have been a great detective. Like, well now, like you're actually doing detective work. Like so as you say, I would have been a great detective. Like you're actually doing
we get to do it.
Of a detective, yes.
We get to dive in, especially when we get cooperation or access, when we actually get to go through the case file. And it's my favorite thing to go in. And, we have the benefit of hindsight, but to look at a case over 30 years on paper and be able to find the new clues and run down the new leads and find the new suspects is, it's literally my dream job. I would love, some subpoena power. I'd love to be able to test my own evidence, but that's what's like out of the wheelhouse for me.
What's the deepest that you've been able to go?
We did a series called Deck Investigates, where we looked at the murder of Darlene Hulse back in the 80s here where I live in Indiana. And we were able to identify multiple suspects who were never on police's radar. We went and actually tracked them down. We tried to speak to them. We looked into their past. We talked to experts and actually identified places where new evidence could be tested in her case. And the frustrating part is you can do all of that, and then you just hope that the people who actually have the authority to actually do the testing or go do an official interview or make an arrest will follow up. But what we see often sometimes is that instead of saying like, oh, thank God we didn't have the time to work it, someone did, and now we have a place to start, we get a lot of resistance and it's a lot of ego. Like people are frustrated that we made progress, and so they don't want to further upon our progress. So instead, they just do nothing, which is devastating for the families on the other end of that.
Wow. It's crazy that you're in it that deep. A lot of stuff, like you keep saying Indiana. Do you find that a lot of shit has happened in Indiana? Like, is it?
I think if you go anywhere, a lot of shit's happened everywhere. Yeah. But I think what it is these small towns tend to have the ones that go unsolved for a long time because their departments don't often have the resources, the know-how, the experience in dealing with some of, the really dark crimes, like the serial killer, the roaming psychopath, the twisted husband. Like they don't see it as much as big cities do, and so. Small towns, rural areas. Indiana's full of rural areas. I think that's where you're going to see it the most. I don't know if do you remember? We met one time. Do you remember what you said to me?
I remember, yes.
Yeah, you were like, yes. Well, we'll meet. And you said, where are you? New York, LA? I said, Indiana. You said, we'll Zoom.
Yeah, yes,
you're like, I'm not fucking coming to Indiana.
We'll Zoom. I want to meet you. I want to know more about you. Where are you at? New York, LA, Indiana. Okay.
We'll Zoom.
We'll Zoom it. We'll have a good conversation. It'll still be great. As we talk about just like your world, the one thing that I didn't get to is just like the beginning stages of it, right? Like,
Yeah.
of course, now you're an author, you have the business, you have the company, like you're building it. But the beginning stages of it, like you said it earlier, it was just like the curiosity. You've always had a love. In school, like, was this the younger version of you? Was a younger version of you here as well, or like when did the interest spark? Like how?
It's weird because like it was all there, and when I look back on videos, pictures, like I was fucking doing this, but I didn't think that this was an option. So I grew up small town Indiana, and my dad was an associate pastor. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. I grew up in a very religious community. My co-host and I joke all the time, like borderline cult. And
Okay.
so I think that like when I was like growing up, like the thing
Why
that
do you say
I mean,
borderline code is crazy? What does that mean? How borderline means
like
very close? Like what?
like
where was the
the
close point?
like speaking in tongues and like
Oh wow, okay.
like casting out demons. Like it
Okay.
was, and we like my dad, we like lived on the property, not sharing homes or anything, but like the home was owned by the church. We had to go to church 3 times a week.
Oh my goodness.
Everything. I went to the church's school. For a long time up until like high school, it was just like the whole world revolved around church.
The church, yeah.
And that church.
I just want to say, like, that is the exact definition of a cult. That's yes,
okay, yeah.
that's the yes.
So not like a cult.
Yeah, let's take out borderline.
I was in a cult.
In a cult. You were in a cult.
That's the headline here.
Got it. Yes, good.
So that's how I grew up, and I very much wanted, like, I wanted to see success. I wanted to see like financial freedom outside, because my dad was so tied to the church. So to me, I thought that was all based in like science, nursing. I went and got a job at a hospital, worked full time to put myself through college, thinking that I was going to go into med school or something like that. And I ended up graduating with a degree in biomedical research.
Okay.
And I did genetics research after college. And truly, I fell into this because I loved it. So I was doing some sciencey stuff. I was doing some business development stuff. I was working for a custom software development firm when I started the podcast. But I've always been invested in true crime. I've always been a consumer of it. I was always looking for a way to give back. It felt really icky, constantly taking entertainment from this world without giving something back. And so at one point, I joined the board of directors for my local Crime Stoppers. And I had fallen in love with podcasting. I mean, I was spending a lot of time in the car for my jobs, and it was such an amazing medium. And I was watching anyone create a podcast. And I had this moment where I was like, no one's creating the show that I want to hear. Maybe I can do it. I think I know what a good story sounds like and how to tell it. And so I set up a whole business. I didn't just set up the podcast because I knew it was never going to be a hobby. I do everything, everything is extra. So I started the business. 2 months later, put out my first episode, and I gave myself a year. I said, if I can't quit my job in a year, then I'm going to have to give this thing up.
Wow.
And
I like
thank
that.
God it worked out.
I like that, but that's the type of pressure that you have to put on yourself.
Yeah.
When you put that type of pressure on yourself, like there is no excuse. There is no other option. It's like, it's all this. And I love the road. I love the road that you took to get here too. What was your first break of success at doing it? Like when you said, if I can't support myself, what was the first like inklet or sign that showed you, okay, there is revenue, there is money, I'll be fine?
Well, within like the first 6 months, we had people starting asking for extra content. And so around the 6-7 month mark, I created a Patreon account, and where we were creating bonus content that fans could pay for and help fund the show. And then about the same time, we connected with an ad agency to help sell some advertisement. I didn't know up from down when it came to that, though, at the time. And so while we had somebody booking ads, like the ad would run for, however many months, and then you got paid 90 days after the campaign. And so we had ads on the show, but I wasn't seeing any money from it. So it was probably not until the end of that first year, because what really happened, we had gotten a ton of traction, downloads amazingly that first year, and no money though. But I got noticed by an agent, and he signed us at the top of that year and helped like renegotiate our contract. And he was the one to tell me like, oh, you can get, a certain guarantee. You can get paid faster than 90 days after the campaign. And having him was a huge game changer.
I like that. And I like the progression, right? The progression of story and the understanding that happens along the way. I mean, that's how the business grows. More importantly, that's how you as a CEO, that's how you grow. And, at what point did you realize that you can start to connect the dots a little differently as we talk about the business? Like, are you talking about the advertising play? Okay, wow, this is coming. But this is like the first one. And then you get paid down here. Like, when did you start to figure out, wait a minute, I can kind of like start to collect these opportunities and start to package these things up and the business can grow? When did the mindset when did it start, or were you able to gain that knowledge by grabbing some personnel and surrounding yourself with people who had the experience? How did it happen for you?
I did not have a lot of people around me. So I had to learn pretty quickly, and I was a sponge. Like, I could not learn fast enough. So I was going to every conference. I was trying to meet with as many people as I could. How are you doing it? How are you doing it differently than someone else? Again, thank God I had my agent, but he was really the only person I had in my orbit who knew how this world worked or should work, and everything else I was having to learn on the job. But the two careers I had prior to this were both startup companies. And I think that positioned me really well. Because though they had nothing to do with media, podcasting, true crime, they taught me what it takes to run a business. And it's what I tell people all the time. I'm like, man, you don't have to be in your lifelong dream job, but there's something you can take from every spot that you're in going forward, that if you have the right attitude, if you're willing to work hard, like, you can pull that into where you want to eventually end up.
I love that. I like this is the information that I think that the fans love when they get to listen to this show. It's like hearing just the steps, hearing how things are built, hearing how the dots get connected, and, the learning curve expands. And, so many people are always confused as to how to start or how to grow or how to get to the place of success. But they don't understand, like, there's such a discovery in it all. And that's the fun part. The fun part is the discovery.
The other thing a lot of people aren't willing to do, though, is like invest in themselves. So when I started, nobody was giving me a loan to start a podcast. I didn't know what I was doing. I had $13,000 to my name, all my life savings that I put into starting the show, unbeknownst to my fiance, soon to be husband at the time. And I put every single dollar in, and again, luckily it worked out. It might not have, but if you're not willing to invest in yourself, I'm not telling everyone to dump their entire life savings into something, but if you're not willing to invest, who else is gonna?
I mean, nobody, which is why it's always best when it's you. Nobody sees your vision and understands your vision more than you. Nobody's going to work harder towards the thing that you want.
And they're going to make you do it their way. I feel like so much of our success as a company has been because of the fact we got to make our own rules. We were here in Indiana. We were in a brand new medium that there wasn't a rule book for. There wasn't a path we could follow. And while it was really hard, it allowed us to do whatever we want, currently past, like wanted, and show people that it worked. I think that if I had to go, ask people for money, ask people for things, and they would have had a huge say in it, and they would have tried to do it like everyone has done before. And I don't think we would have been nearly as successful, because I don't want to do what everyone's done before.
I mean, well, you're not, clearly. I mean, you've found an amazing discovery in this space. Not that there hasn't been people that have, of course, partaken in this world, because there have for so many years. I just think the attention that you brought to it and the way that you approach it is significantly different, which is why your fan base has grown. What is your fan base, for my listeners that may not understand how big your podcast is? What are the numbers? How many people are listening?
11.5 million people a month listen to the show. It's
insane.
wild. It's wild.
It's
Yeah.
insane.
So our network has over a dozen shows on it. And I mean, we're close to like 50 million downloads a month across our entire show. And the 11.5 million is just Crime Junkie alone.
God.
I know it's like I don't know. It's one of those numbers that feels like fake. It's like it's Monopoly stuff at some point to me because I don't see them. I don't, you go out on tour and you get to see like stadiums of people come out for you, and it has to become kind of real for you in those moments. And I'm here in my booth in Indiana.
I mean, 11.5 million people.
Mm-hmm.
50 million downloads. That's insane.
It's huge.
Your
And they're really
insane.
And it's not even just like, I mean, I think people know how to measure like social followings and stuff like that, which is a lot smaller for us. But I'm like, man, the way the engagement that we have, I have 11.5 million people every week, every month who come in and will listen to what I say, not for 2 minutes, not for 30 seconds, but for 45 minutes, an hour, they'll listen to me talk. And it's amazing, the platform that we've built and the things we've been able to do with that platform.
The things you've been able to discover and like break down. It truly is insane. But now the platform is becoming so much more. Like it's an entity, it's an ecosystem, and you're building off of it. All right, Ashley, rapid fire questions. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. All right, Ashley, first career mistake that you immediately knew was a mistake.
Knock on wood, none, because it is okay to change your mind. I have backed out of things in the 11th hour if they felt awful in my gut or if I received new information that changed things. There are plenty of mistakes that I have made that I learn is a mistake down the line, but there is nothing that immediately I do it and I say, oh no, because I've learned I have to trust my gut.
I like it. Best piece of advice that you got from someone you didn't want to hear it from?
I feel like I'm going to be awful at all these questions. Not applicable. If I don't want to hear it from them, it probably means I don't respect them or where they've been. I don't have to like someone to respect them. And so if I don't want to hear it from you, there's probably a reason. And why would I take your advice?
I like it. What album is a soundtrack? What album could be the soundtrack to your life?
Not to my life, as in like the arc of my life, but that I listen to the most is Self-Portrait by Sasha Alex Sloan. It is from 2019. It is depressing as fuck.
Okay.
I just love a sad song. Like,
okay.
I live for a song that hurts.
Okay. All right. I love the honesty. Favorite movie that inspires you to this day?
Listen, it's not my favorite, but I am from Indiana in South Bend, so I got to say it, Rudy.
Okay. That's actually, I get it. That's rapid fire, and I like your answers. They're quick, they're fast, and they're what we need. Ashley, okay, so I know you're on Sirius, but I've also been made aware that you are now starting like a new channel on Sirius. Like you have your own channel. So can you give me some information about that?
So the channel you can find on the SiriusXM app. It is the Crime Junkie Radio. So 24/7, all of Crime Junkie content, but not just the Crime Junkie show, a lot of the shows we've made in our network. So we've created back-to-back episodes of some of my favorite shows, specifically favorite episodes. And then there is a new show exclusive to SiriusXM called Crime Junkie AF, where once a month I sit down with some kind of expert in the field, whether it be a journalist, medical pathologist, whatever, and we talk about some of the headlines, like current true crime headlines that are breaking, and I kind of get their take on it. It's been one of my favorite new projects because I'm really getting to like pick at the minds of these genius people who in another life I wanted to be.
This is big. Very, very big. Yeah. I talked about you being a New York Times #1 bestseller, right? Yeah. I mean, and that's an amazing amount of success. And you talked about like your love for just thriller crime in general. Is there a desire to write and create more? Is there a desire to like have your own volume 1, volume 2 of said things? Like, are you leaning more towards that space? Is there a want to do more things in that space from a creative?
Definitely. Because people ask like, what's your outlet, right? You're in this dark space all the time. What do you want to do outside of it? And I'm like, I still love mysteries. It's the thing that I actually really enjoy. It was so fun to do the novel because it was so fun to do a mystery where the stakes were the lowest they could be, 0. Like there's no real people at the other end of that. There's nobody I can hurt by doing it wrong except for myself. So I've already actually written a second book.
Wow.
I literally just turned in my final manuscript recently. So there'll be a new book coming out. The first book got bought for TV. So we'll see if it gets turned into anything. Like I would have never made it in traditional Hollywood. They, everyone talks a lot and I don't see anything actually get made. So we'll see.
It's a lot of development. You're in the land of development, but development with the author that has a crazy following is different. Mm-hmm. So it's a different thing to engage with the person that has a fan base. Like you're not at that point, you're not just talking. You're trying to figure out the best way to get to the final point of like production. So for you, I would say I doubt that it's a lot of talk and no action. Like your following is too big, and an Ashley Flowers mindset or an Ashley Flowers attachment can come with a crazy world of fanfare on the other side of it. So I can see what the interest would be. What's the space? If you can you talk about the space of what the next book is, or do you have to kind of be tight-lipped about it for a second?
I mean, nobody's told me not to. I can't talk about when it's coming out. The date is TBD. But it is another mystery novel based around 2 sets of sisters, and each sister has a sister that's gone missing, and the cases might potentially be connected. And so they kind of come together to see if they can solve the case. And I set the first one and the second one in Indiana, so keeping it home.
I think that you may be a murderer. I think that Ashley Flowers is like, it's just, I love these type of ideas, by the way. Like it's so, they're just so interesting, right? To how the mind works and how like you can just come up with the concepts to do. What else is it that takes up your time? Okay, we know that this is something that's extremely time consuming, but what is the break for you? What is a day of rest, relaxation, and fun look like outside of the job?
There's no rest and relaxation because I have a 2.5-year-old.
Oh.
So that's
such
what
a
that's
horrible
what
age.
It's better than newborn, man. Newborn was tough for me. I did not dig. Everyone's like, "Oh, the sweet babe." No, thank you. But now she's got a lot of thoughts and a lot of opinions, and she's a 10. So like when she's excited, 10. When she's mad, 10. Like she doesn't operate at anything below a 10.
Yes.
So it's a lot. So truly, I mean, when I'm outside of work, it's hanging out with her and my husband and our dog Chuck, who I named the company after. So I'm a little obsessed with my dog.
What kind of dog do you have?
I got him at a rescue my last year of college. He is a Husky Pit Mix.
Oh, wow. That's a beautiful dog.
Gorgeous.
That's a beautiful dog. So you said one thing. You're like, look, it's the family. And earlier you were just talking about, how you grew up. What's the relationship with the family now? Like,
really good.
You with your mom and dad, is it really good? Do you guys ever talk about the times of old and how you kind of ventured away from them? What is their thoughts on like what their daughter's doing and the success that you're having?
So, I mean, it all kind of happened slowly. I mean, even the way that we all kind of separated from the church happened in different ways because the church kind of broke up about the time I went into high school. And it was really hard on a lot of people figuring out what that life was going to be like. And I feel like I fully broke away when I went off to college. I left Indiana, went to Arizona for a few years. And my family, again, in their own time, have kind of found their way outside of it as well. And we every once in a while, like we don't sit down and like really like dissect it in a family therapy kind of way. Not that that's not needed, but it's almost like you don't realize how wild it was until something pops up and you start like talking about it out loud. And you're like, oh, that was not normal.
Yes.
And it's a lot of my sweet mom just like apologizing. And I'm like, Mom, you were in your 20s, man. You didn't know either. You're just doing your best. Like, it's all right. Like, you weren't trying to do anything crazy to me. But poor mom.
But saying it out loud does make you go, huh, wait a minute.
Yeah, it's really fucked up.
Well, wait a minute. Hold on. Wait a second. Yeah. Now, in doing this. What's your husband's take on it? Is he in love with what you do? Is he excited or just excited with the crime? Or does he feel like at times like, okay, Ashley, let's take a step back from it for a minute? How does it?
He thinks it's great because I truly was the same amount of obsessed with it as I was when I had a different job. And now
Nice.
I found more success doing something I love. So he's thrilled with it. I have 2 siblings. They both work at the company. And my dad's the only one who, like, I feel like he now is like understanding that it's kind of a big deal. But for the longest time, he was like, it's nice that you have a podcast. Like, but that's back when like everyone had a podcast. So,
but now he gets it. Now he gets it. He
I
understands.
think so. Mostly because when he wears out his Crime Junkie stuff, someone will always stop him and be like, I love that show.
That's a big deal. Good for him. I mean, it's definitely big and refreshing when you see that your parents like not only understand what you do, but just like, can take a moment to be extremely proud. Right?
They're really
like, extremely
proud.
proud. Yeah, that's a big deal.
It
really,
is.
really big deal. What else is there, like, as we talked about entertainment, right? And you just briefly, you drove past it really, really fast. You're like, I don't know. It's like they said they'll develop it. Maybe it'll become a TV show. Who knows? It's a lot of talk, no action. Is there any desire to see your stuff on the big screen or TV?
Yeah.
Is that a part of the goal? Is that like the next stage of success for you that you want or that you're thinking about now that it's getting bigger and bigger for you? Or is it like, if it comes, it comes. If it doesn't, it doesn't?
I think the way that I viewed a lot of things is like, as long as I'm doing the thing that I love, like if it comes, it comes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. As long as I'm having a good time, as long as I'm like doing the thing I believe in and in the way that I believe in doing it, I don't believe that my own like value gets hung up in that stuff. I want the other stuff just because I want to expand the brand. Like I built all of this because I was a crime junkie, and I think that I know what the crime junkies want in literature, in TV and film, in podcasting. And there isn't enough good stuff, in my opinion, out there made by a crime junkie for crime junkies. And so I want to create that stuff in all those different spaces for them. And I think that I can do it. So I think that there's going to be a ton of room for me to play in TV and film, whether that's taking some of our IP we've had in podcasting and turning it into something, or just identifying new IP from other people. Like, again, it's my picker I think I'm really good at. And same for publishing. So I think that expanding the Crime Junkie brand is really the next phase of everything for me. So it's not a specific amount of films, or I'm always quality over quantity.
Well, as you should. And I think you hit the nail on the head, right? It's literally looking into the world of what you've already done. How much of that is potentially IP? How much of that? Because every crime story can ultimately be made into something. But like you said, picking the right choices, going and like combing through them and saying, oh, wait, here are the really good stories. Here are the ones that could definitely pop and become so much more. That's the trick. It's that discovery and taking them out. I mean, look, as a guy with the studio, our biggest focus is like finding great material. What are the things that we deem to be worthy of the title of a heartbeat IP? What's a heartbeat concept? What can people look at and gravitate towards and go, oh my God, that's heartbeat, like every day. And I think, those are the brands that are the special brands, and you operating in a specific place. Well, there's nothing better than that, because it's hard to find a place for error if you know what you do and you know that you do it very well. Your discovery, your knack for that is completely different. In a perfect world, if you could have an actor or actress be a part of one of your thrillers that you create, like, do you have the perfect casting that's in your head of the perfect piece of material that can come in the future?
I don't know that I have like the perfect cast for a specific thing, but this is so random. Merritt Weaver, do you know who she is?
Yes.
Okay, I picture her when I write almost anything. Like I was picturing when I wrote All Good People Here, I was picturing Merritt Weaver as Margot. There is something I freaking love about her.
I was going to say, what is it about her that you think?
She's an amazing actress, but there is something just so like tangible and real about her that I'm deeply obsessed with her. So she's the person that I find myself picturing over and over again when I'm creating like fictional characters.
I like it. And I like that's good information for her as well. Like that's just like it's very flattering for her as well. Like just to know, like, hey, when I write, I see you. Like that's a very
not to make it weird now.
that's a really good thing. But I think you need that though. You need the personality that you're like attaching to the material. I think it helps the material as you're writing. Yeah. I don't know who I see. God, you just made me think of something. Like I think I see myself.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think I see myself all the time. Like, although I'm not playing everything that I'm creating, I see myself in it. You gotta be able to writing. I think so. I think like you just.
Well, that makes sense because I mean that's the role, like the area you operate in and you're so comfortable in. And I'm like, if you couldn't make yourself believe it and do it, like you couldn't convince anyone else. Like,
I mean, for me, it's like, yeah, I think that's honestly what it is. It's like, where can I ground it? Where do I make it good? Mm-hmm. Where do I find the depth in it? Like, how am I able to justify it and break it down in my head? And once I'm able to do that, then it's easier to present it to whomever, however. Right.
And you're obviously like you're known for comedy, but you've been doing like some like touching on some darker stuff. Yeah. So like, is that where you're going, or you just like to like dabble every once in a while?
I like to do everything. Like right now, you know what's crazy? And it's like, especially that we're talking about you and the success and crime junkies, et cetera. So I have been going down the drama path, just to show that I can, just to show that I'm, that I have the acting chops. But I have not done a thriller, like just a all out thriller. I haven't done one yet. So it's like right now, it's like what will I do in that space? Like, what is it? Horror, like the horror side of thriller? Is it what? Like, but I have to put it under my belt in my career because I haven't done it yet. But I've done everything else. I've done the action. I've done the action comedy. I've done the drama. I've done the dramedy. I've done the adventure. I've done the animation. Like I've tapped into it all. So it is a want now. It is like it's like
the new frontier for you. That's exciting.
I mean, I have to. So who knows? Maybe Ashley Flowers will pick a piece of IP, and I gotta do that.
I'm gonna start noodling, man. I feel like I've like I got 10 like things in my head already.
But I have to do something in the space to just check off the box.
Yeah,
I have to. And it's a fun space to play in. You know what's crazy? It's like even when I think about like horror movies and shit like that, I'm the guy that would be scared filming it, even though I know it's fake.
Really?
That's why I think. Yes, that's why I think.
Do you go to horror movies? Are you into it or no? You like can't do it?
I'm scared. I can't do it. I'm a little scared.
My husband.
I'm a bitch. I'm 1,000%. I'm 1,000% a bitch when it comes to horror and like what it is and how like I'm a bitch.
Well, then you definitely got to have someone on your team who like is in love with it. Otherwise, you're not going to know what's good.
Well, that's the thing. That's why like the finding it has taken so long. It's like then I got to think of the things like that I'm not going to be afraid to do. Like, wait a second.
I'm going to be afraid to do a lot of it, man. If you don't like it,
they say I got to walk down.
I think then you definitely need to go thriller over horror because I feel like horror is going to be terrifying.
Wait. So you say
it's going to turn into a comedy. The blooper reel from that horror movie will be a comedy in and of itself.
The level of jump scares that I would have, even in knowing, okay, Kevin, so this is when they jump out right here, and then you go. And I said, wait.
Knowing is worse. You're not even able to like do your lines. There's no freaking way.
I'll be a mess. It'll be the longest shoot ever. The longest shoot. The behind the scenes of dealing with Kevin Hart on a horror film set would be comedy for everybody. I'm telling you, like I am the worst. Okay. I am the worst. But I am going to do it though. I will have one.
I believe you.
That will be under my belt. I promise you that.
I believe everything you set out to do, you've done.
Yes.
I don't think anyone doubts you.
Well, you notice that this is one that's just been a little delayed. It's been a little delayed.
That's all right.
because I'm a bitch. And I want to make that very clear to the audience. I have no problem admitting to the world that I'm a bitch.
That
It
I'm a
is.
bitch.
Let's just go and let's talk about the success of podcasts and how we've seen this business grow over time. And we've seen, these entities really, really back the truck up and like secure the opportunity and future opportunities for some of the biggest in the game, right? Like when you talk about, let's example, like a Joe Rogan who has really flipped the world of pod upside down, and the experience attached to it has gotten bigger and better. And people now, they don't even gravitate towards these voices like Joe, like yourself, because of so much. Like there's so many different reasons for not only information, but just for like, this is how I like to spend my time. People love to listen on the go. People love to exercise and listen and whatever.
Drive, do laundry, all the things. Yeah.
Everything can happen. And the space and place of audio can check those boxes. You seeing that level of success now and seeing it grow over the course of time. Does it make you even more excited about the future of the business? Or do you feel like the business has seen its plateau? Or is there another wave of it coming?
I think there's still definitely another wave. Because, I mean, even when you look at the people who consume podcasting to radio to TV, like the podcasting is still smaller, but growing every single year. And the way that people consume TV, I mean, it's all on demand, and podcasting is on demand. And you can find exactly what you want, your niche. You become friends with them. And I think that's what I fell in love with anyway, and what's so different is just how intimate the medium is you talk about these people coming with you everywhere. They're in your home, they're in your car, they're in the bathtub with you, and they become such a trusted voice. And I think that, there's like any new industry, we've seen all these wild waves. I mean, there was this boom for a while and everyone was getting bought at wild numbers, like hundreds of millions of dollars were being spent on companies that now are not even really that known anymore, have stopped making some of the content that they were so known for to begin with. And I hope that the lesson learned from some of these big companies is trust the people who are creating the thing. I mean, we've brought people to us. We know how to make the content to make them come, to make them stay. Do the business you're great at. Like there's so many places that I think us content creators and even people with small businesses can use help and can utilize these bigger businesses. But the second like they step in and try to run it like TV or run it like film or run it like these old industries, it stops working. And so I think that we had this like kind of calm down this area where everyone's like, oh, maybe we're not buying anything anymore. It's not working. It's working. You got to just find the people who know how to work it.
That is well said, Ashley. And guess what? You are one of those people that know how to work it.
I know how to work it, yeah.
You are one of those people that have discovered what I would like to call the concoction, the key concoction to success. And it's a mix. And when you get the mix done and you put it like you put all of the things in it that are necessary, you find that it's a drink that people will enjoy with you. And people are enjoying your drink. And this space that you're playing in true crime, I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm so blown away, not just by your fanfare and like the response that you get and consistently get from your fan base, but just like the business that you're growing, you're doing it right. And I went and I just like did my little just snooping and investigating just to see like how big of a world you're building and like what the possibility is. I love how you're connecting the dots. I love like you're still writing. I love you're still creating. I love that you have an entity in Pod that you are at the forward of. Like it's this is how businesses are developed, right? Like this is how entities are born. More importantly, like you telling me that you come from like the background of startups, it makes sense now. Like you're not unfamiliar with the space, and bringing that experience to this place, it's only all going to line up correctly for you. And I can't wait to see what you do next, because you've done so much. And this is a podcast where it's about giving flowers, of course, but also about giving information. And I hope that my fans were able to take a lot away from what we talked about here today. And if you not or haven't been a fan of Ashley's, well, I suggest that you become one. Go and see what her world is about. Go and get into the space of crime and become a crime junkie. I am. I like
Welcome.
it. I'm intrigued by it.
Welcome.
And I blame you. I blame you for this new appetite.
That's all right. And then I'll take credit for your next thriller horror. That's no problem.
Yes. I'm calling you. I'm calling you for research on my character. Will they do this? Is this what I should do? Is this the right mindset to have? Am I believable here? I cannot thank you enough for joining me here on Gold Mines. Ashley, it was exactly what I thought it would be. And nothing less than. You are a gem, a true gem. And I want my people to go and support, go follow, listen, download, do all of the above. Ashley Flowers is the real deal. I can't thank you
Kevin.
enough.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Gold Mines. You know what we do? Get inside the minds of amazing people. And today was no different. Today we got inside the mind of the amazing Ashley Flowers.